Tae-ho Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stepped off the shuttle onto the rocky surface of Asteroid Mining Station 7. The air was thin and cold, making each breath feel sharp in his lungs. He pulled his research bag closer to his shoulder and looked around at the abandoned mining equipment scattered across the asteroid's surface. "Another dead mining site," muttered Captain Minho Park as he joined Tae-ho outside the shuttle. "The company pulled out 6 months ago when they found nothing valuable here." Tae-ho nodded but kept walking toward the old mining tunnels. As a xenobiologist, he was always interested in places others had given up on. Sometimes the most amazing discoveries came from the most forgotten corners of space. The mining tunnels were dark and filled with broken equipment. Tae-ho turned on his flashlight and began examining the rock walls for any signs of unusual life forms. He had been working for 3 hours when he heard it, a soft, weak crying sound echoing from deep inside the tunnel. "Did you hear that?" Tae-ho called back to his team. Engineer Sora Choi looked up from her equipment scanner. "Hear what? I don't hear anything." The sound came again, softer this time. It sounded like a small animal in pain. Tae-ho followed the sound deeper into the tunnel, stepping carefully over broken mining tools and fallen rocks. "Tae-ho, don't go too far," called Navigator Ji-won Lee. "These old tunnels aren't safe." But Tae-ho couldn't ignore the crying. He followed the sound around a corner and found a section where the tunnel ceiling had collapsed. Heavy metal beams and rocks blocked most of the passage. The crying was coming from behind the debris. Tae-ho shone his light through a small gap between the rocks. What he saw made him gasp. A small creature was trapped under a heavy metal beam. It was no bigger than a house cat, but it had tiny wings and scales that sparkled like jewels in the flashlight beam. Its scales shifted colors, blue, then silver, then deep purple. "A dragon," Tae-ho whispered. He had heard stories about dragons, but most people said they were just myths. Yet here was a baby dragon, clearly hurt and crying for help. The little dragon looked up at him with large, bright eyes that seemed far too wise for such a young creature. It made a soft sound, almost like it was asking for help. "Guys, I need help over here," Tae-ho shouted to his team. Captain Minho was the first to arrive. He took one look at the trapped creature and stepped back. "Tae-ho, that's a dragon. We need to leave, now." "It's just a baby," Tae-ho said. "It's hurt." "Dragons are dangerous," Sora said as she and Ji-won joined them. "Everyone knows that, even baby ones." "Look at it," Tae-ho pointed to the creature. "It's scared and in pain. We can't just leave it here to die." The little dragon tried to move but cried out in pain. One of its tiny wings was bent at a wrong angle, and there was a cut on its side where the metal beam had scraped against its scales. "This is a bad idea," Minho said. "What if its parents come looking for it? Adult dragons could destroy our ship." "Then we help it and get out of here quickly," Tae-ho said. He was already taking off his backpack and pulling out his medical tools. "I can't just walk away from a hurt animal." It took them 2 hours to move enough rocks and metal to reach the baby dragon. Tae-ho worked carefully, talking softly to the creature to keep it calm. When he finally lifted the metal beam off its tiny body, the dragon looked up at him with grateful eyes. "Easy, little one," Tae-ho said gently. He examined the dragon's injured wing. Several metal fragments had cut into the wing membrane, and the wing bone seemed cracked. The cut on its side wasn't deep, but it was bleeding. Back on their ship, Tae-ho set up a medical area in his lab. The baby dragon lay quietly on the examination table, watching him work. It seemed to understand that he was trying to help. "I've never worked on a dragon before," Tae-ho said to himself as he cleaned the wounds. "But you're not so different from other animals I've helped." The dragon made a soft, chirping sound, almost like it was agreeing with him. Tae-ho carefully removed the metal pieces from the wing and cleaned each cut. The dragon held very still, even though Tae-ho knew it must hurt. When he wrapped the tiny wing in a soft bandage, the dragon nuzzled his hand with its small snout. "You're very brave," Teho told it. "What should I call you?" "How about Biol?" "That means star, and your scales shine like stars." Biol seemed to like the name. She made a happy chirping sound and tried to sit up. For the next 3 days, Teho took care of Biol. He fed her small pieces of the protein bars from his food supplies and gave her water from a tiny cup. He created a warm, comfortable nest for her in a storage box lined with his spare clothes. Biol grew stronger each day. Her cuts healed quickly, and her wings stopped hurting. She followed Teho around the lab, riding on his shoulder or curled up in his pocket. When he worked at his computer, she would sit on the desk and watch the screen with interest. "She's actually quite intelligent," Teho told his worried teammates. "Watch this." He picked up a small tool and hid it behind his back. "Biol, where's the scanner?" The little dragon looked around, then pointed with one tiny claw to Teho's left hand. "Lucky guess," Minho said, but he looked impressed despite himself. On the 3rd day, something strange happened. Teho was examining some rock samples when he suddenly felt warm and happy, even though he had been tired and stressed. He looked over at Biol, who was sleeping in her nest. As he watched her, the warm feeling grew stronger. "Are you doing that?" he asked her softly. Biol opened one bright eye and looked at him. For just a moment, Teho felt like he could sense her thoughts, gratitude, affection, and something that felt like deep, ancient wisdom. "This is impossible," he whispered, but the connection felt real and wonderful. That night, as Teho slept, Biol curled up next to his pillow. In his dreams, he saw images of vast space, magnificent creatures flying between stars, and a sense of something important waiting to happen. He had no idea that saving one small dragon would change everything. Biol had been with them for 3 days when everything changed. Teho was feeding her breakfast when the ship's alarm began blaring loudly throughout the corridors. "Captain to the bridge, immediately!" Jiwan's voice came over the speaker system, and she sounded scared. Teho picked up Biol and rushed to the bridge with the others. Through the main viewing window, he could see something that made his heart stop. Massive ships surrounded their small research vessel. These weren't like any ships he had ever seen before. The ships looked alive. They had smooth, curved surfaces that seemed to breathe and pulse like living creatures. Some were dark blue with silver patterns that moved across their hulls like flowing water. Others were deep green with gold markings that sparkled like jewelry. The largest ship was silver white and so beautiful it almost hurt to look at. "How many are there?" Captain Minho asked in a whisper. "I count 15, Jiwan said, checking her instruments. "Maybe more. They appeared out of nowhere about 2 minutes ago." "Are they hostile?" Sora asked. "I don't know." "They haven't attacked us, but they've completely surrounded our ship. We can't move." Biol suddenly became very excited. She chirped loudly and flapped her tiny wings, trying to fly toward the viewing window. Teho held her gently, but felt her, happiness and excitement through their strange connection. "I think she recognizes them," Teho said. "What do you mean?" Minho asked. Before Teho could answer, a new voice filled their minds. It wasn't coming through the ship's communication system. The voice was speaking directly inside their heads, and it felt like controlled lightning. "Small flying ship with the stolen youngling. You will prepare to be boarded." The crew looked at each other with wide eyes. Sora grabbed onto her chair to steady herself. Did everyone else hear that voice in their head? "Stolen youngling," Minho repeated. "They think we stole Biol?" Teho felt Biol's excitement growing stronger. She was chirping and trying to get free from his hands. "They're her family," he realized. "They've come looking for her." A bright light began to form on their bridge. The light grew bigger and brighter until the crew had to close their eyes. When the light faded, 3 figures stood before them. They were dragons, but not like the tiny Biol. These dragons were tall as humans, but much more magnificent. Their scales were perfect and bright, and their eyes held ancient wisdom. The largest dragon had silver-blue scales that seemed to contain moving starlight. When it moved, the air around it shimmered. Biol immediately flew from Taeho's hands toward the large dragon, chirping happily. The dragon caught her gently and held her close, examining her carefully. The other two dragons moved closer, their eyes never leaving the human crew. "I am Elder Hanol," the large dragon said, and again the voice came directly into their minds. "This youngling belongs to our clan. How did you come to possess her?" Taeho stepped forward, even though his knees felt weak. "We didn't steal her. We found her trapped under collapsed mining equipment. She was hurt and alone." Elder Hanul's large eyes focused on Taeho. Those eyes were deep blue and seemed to look right through him. "You claim you helped her?" "Yes," Taeho said. "She had cuts and a broken wing. I treated her injuries and took care of her." One of the other dragons, this one with green and gold scales, spoke up. "Humans are known to capture and sell rare creatures. Why should we believe you? Helped rather than harmed?" "Because she's healthy and happy," Taeho said. "Look at her. Does she seem afraid of me?" Elder Haniul looked down at Biol, who was trying to fly back to Taeho. The little dragon chirped and pointed at him with her tiny claw, then flew over, to land on his shoulder. "Interesting," Elder Haniul said slowly. "She has bonded with you." "Bonded?" Taeho asked. "Dragons do not trust easily," explained the third dragon, whose scales were deep purple with silver edges. "For a youngling to show such attachment to another species is unusual." Elder Hanul moved closer to Taeho. "Show me your memories of finding her." "How can I do that?" Taeho asked. "Allow me into your mind. Do not resist." Taeho felt something touch his thoughts, gentle but powerful. He tried to stay calm as Elder Hanul looked through his memories. He felt the dragon seeing everything, finding Biol trapped and crying, working for hours to free her, carefully treating her injuries, sharing his food with her, creating a comfortable place for her to sleep. Elder Hanul pulled back from Taeho's mind and looked surprised. "You risked your safety to help her, even though you believed dragons were dangerous." "She was hurt," Taeho said simply. "I couldn't leave a hurt animal to suffer." "Animal?" The green and gold dragon sounded offended. "I'm sorry," Taeho said, quickly. "I didn't mean to insult you. I meant I couldn't leave any living creature to suffer." Elder Hanul studied Taeho for a long moment. "In my 3,000 years of life, I have never encountered a human who would help a dragon. Most of your species either worship us as gods or hunt us as monsters." "We didn't know dragons were real until 3 days ago," Captain Minho said. "We thought you were legends. And yet when faced with a real dragon, even a small one, your first thought was to help," the purple dragon said, looking at Taeho with new interest. Biol chirped and nuzzled against Taeho's cheek. Through their connection, he felt her trying to communicate with her family, showing them her memories of being cared for. Elder Hanel's expression softened. "She speaks well of you, Taeho Kim. She says you sang to her when she was scared, and shared your best food even when you had little." "She told you my name?" Taeho asked in amazement. "She learned it by listening to your thoughts. The bond between you is stronger than I expected." Elder Hanul looked at the other dragons, then back at Taeho. "This is unprecedented. What happens now?" Sora asked nervously. Elder Hanul was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Now we must decide what to do with humans who have seen too much and know too much." The crew tensed, but Biol chirped loudly and flew around Elder Hanel's head, clearly arguing. "With him. The youngling pleads for your safety," Elder Hanul said with what might have been amusement. "She says you are good creatures who deserve protection." "She's very smart," Taeho said proudly. Smarter than you know, the purple dragon said. Biol is not just any youngling. She is of royal blood, destined to be a leader among our people. Teho looked at the tiny dragon on his shoulder in amazement. Royal blood? Elder Hanul nodded. Which makes this situation even more complex. A human has saved and bonded with dragon royalty. The council must hear of this. Council? Jiwan asked. The gathering of our eldest and wisest. They will want to meet the human who showed kindness to our kind. Elder Hanul looked directly at Tai-Ho. You will come with us. Is that a request or an order? Captain Minho asked. Elder Hanul smiled, showing sharp but somehow friendly teeth. For now, it is an invitation, but I think you will find it very interesting to see what no human has ever seen before. Biol chirped excitedly and flew in happy, circles around Teho's head. Through their bond, he felt her joy and anticipation. Where are you taking us? Teho asked. To our home, Elder Hanul said. To the place where dragons have lived hidden from the galaxy for thousands of years. The crew looked at each other with wonder and fear. They were about to see something incredible. The journey to the dragon home world was unlike anything Teho had ever experienced. Their small research ship was gently pulled along by the dragon vessels through space in ways that seemed impossible. They moved faster than light, but instead of using engines, the dragon ship seemed to fold space around them. How are they doing this? Sora asked, staring at her instruments in confusion. Dragon technology is very different from ours, Elder Hanul explained as he stood on their bridge. We do not build machines. We grow them. Our ships are alive, part plant and part animal. Through the viewing window, Teho watched as they approached a star system hidden behind swirling clouds of colorful gas. No wonder humans had never found this place. It was completely hidden from normal space sensors. As they flew through the gas clouds, a beautiful planet appeared before them. It was covered in crystal cities that sparkled like jewels. Floating islands drifted slowly through the sky, connected by bridges made of what looked like hardened light. Dragons of all sizes and colors flew between the floating structures. Welcome to Yongseong, Elder Hanul said. The Star of Dragons. Biol pressed against the viewing window, chirping excitedly as she saw her home world. Teho felt her happiness, through their bond, but also her nervousness. She knew something important was about to happen. Their ship landed on a platform made of smooth white stone that seemed to glow from within. Elder Hanul led them out onto the platform, where dozens of dragons were waiting to see them. The dragons came in every color imaginable, red like fire, blue like deep ocean, green like forests, and some with scales that changed colors like rainbows. So many of them, Jiwan whispered. And they're all staring at us, Minho added nervously. Very large dragon approached them. This dragon was ancient, with silver scales that had turned almost white with age. Her eyes were deep purple and filled with wisdom that came from living for thousands of years. I am Elder Yunha, the ancient dragon said, her mental voice feeling like distant thunder. I lead the Dragon Council. We must determine what to do with you humans. What do you mean? Teho asked. You have seen our world. You know we exist. This knowledge makes you dangerous to us, Elder Unha explained. For thousands of years, we have remained hidden from the other species in the galaxy. If word of our existence spreads, we could face war or invasion. Teho felt fear growing in his chest, but Biol nuzzled against his neck, trying to comfort him. However, Elder Unha continued, young Biol speaks highly of you. She insists you are trustworthy. We have decided to test this claim. What kind of test? Captain Minho asked. Elder Hanul stepped forward. The trial of hearts. We will look into your minds and souls to see who you truly are. If you pass, You will be allowed to live and will be trusted with our secrets. If you fail—" "What if we fail?" Sora asked quietly. "Then your memories of us will be removed, and you will be returned to your own space with no knowledge of what happened here," Elder Unya said. "That doesn't sound so bad," Jiwan said. "The process is not always gentle," Elder Hanul warned. "Some minds do not survive having their memories removed." Biol flew from Tai-Ho's shoulder to hover in front of Elder Yunha, chirping urgently and pointing back at the humans. Elder Unha listened to the tiny dragon, then looked at Tai-Ho with surprise. "She offers to speak for you. She says she will share the bond between you so we can see your true nature through her eyes." "Is that safe? For her?" Tai-Ho asked, worried about his small friend. "It is more dangerous for you," Elder Una said. "Through the bond, we will see not just your recent actions, but your entire life. Every thought, every choice, every moment that shaped who you are." Tai-Ho looked at his friends. They were scared, but they nodded at him. They trusted his judgment. "You'll do it," Tai-Ho said. The trial took place in a great crystal chamber at the heart of the floating city. Tai-Ho sat in the center while dozens of dragons formed a circle around him. Biol perched on his shoulder, her tiny claws gripping his shirt. "Are you ready?" Elder Yuna asked. Tai-Ho nodded, though his heart was beating fast. The dragons began to hum a deep sound that seemed to come from their souls. The crystal walls of the chamber began to glow, and Tai-Ho felt his mind opening like a flower. Suddenly, he was experiencing his life again, but from the outside. He watched himself as a child, rescuing an injured bird and nursing it back to health. He saw himself studying hard in school because he wanted to understand animals and help them. The dragons watched as young Tai-Ho chose to become a scientist instead of joining the military like his father wanted. They saw him working late nights in laboratories, learning about alien life forms not to exploit them, but to understand and protect them. They watched him give up chances for money and fame because those opportunities would have required him to hurt animals. The dragons witnessed Tai-Ho's decision to join the Deep Space Research Program, even though it meant leaving Earth and everyone he loved. They saw his loneliness during long missions and his dedication to discovering new forms of life. Then they saw the moment when he found Biol. Through the bond, they felt his immediate compassion for the hurt creature, his determination to help, despite the danger, and his genuine joy when she recovered. But the dragons saw more than just memories. They saw into Tai-Ho's heart and found kindness, curiosity, and a deep respect for all living things. They saw his fears and doubts, but also his courage and his willingness to sacrifice for others. As the trial continued, Tai-Ho began to see through the dragon's eyes as well. He experienced their memories of watching civilizations rise and fall across the galaxy. He felt their sadness as they witnessed wars and destruction. He saw their role as protectors of life, working in secret to maintain balance in the universe. The dragons showed him their greatest fear, dark entities from the space between galaxies that consumed life itself. These void devourers were coming, and the dragons had been preparing to defend against them for centuries. "We are few," Elder Yuna's voice echoed in his mind. "And we cannot face this threat alone. We need allies, but every species we have encountered either worships us or fears us. None have ever simply accepted us as equals." Through the visions, Tai-Ho saw what the dragons were really looking for, a species that could work with them as partners, not servants or enemies. The trial lasted for hours, though it felt like days to Tai-Ho. When it finally ended, he collapsed from exhaustion. Biol immediately flew to him, chirping with worry. Elder Yuna looked down at him with new respect. "In all my long life, I have never seen a mind so free of hatred or greed. You truly care only for the welfare of others. The other dragons murmured their agreement. Elder Hanul stepped forward and helped Taeho to his feet. "You have passed the trial," Elder Hanul said. "But more than that, you have given us hope." "Hope for what?" Taeho asked weakly. Elder Yuna smiled, showing ancient but kind teeth. "Hope that perhaps humans are the allies we have been waiting for, the partners who might help us save all life in the galaxy." Bayol chirped happily and did a little loop in the air. Through their bond, Taeho felt her pride and joy. "What happens now?" Captain Minho asked. "Now we teach you about the real universe," Elder Yuna said, "and you help us decide if humanity is ready to join the galactic community." Taeho looked around at the magnificent dragons surrounding him. He had saved one small dragon, and now he might be helping to save the entire galaxy. "Think we're ready to learn," he said. The dragon archives were hidden deep inside the planet's core, in chambers carved from living crystal that had grown for millions of years. Elder Sul, a dragon with scales like morning dew that sparkled with silver light, led Taeho and his crew through corridors lined with glowing memory crystals. "Each crystal contains the history of our people," Elder Sul explained as they walked, "and the history of the galaxy itself." Bayol rode on Taeho's shoulder, her eyes wide with wonder. Even though this was her home world, she had never been allowed in the archives before. Only adult dragons were permitted here, and only during times of great importance. "Why are you showing us this?" Taeho asked. "Because you need to understand what you have become part of," Elder Sul said, "and because the Council has decided that humans may be our last hope." They entered a vast chamber where the walls were covered with moving pictures made of light. The images showed the history of the galaxy, the rise and fall of great civilizations, wars between species, and planets being born and dying. "Long ago, when the galaxy was young, there lived a race called the Builders," Elder Sul began. "They were the first species to travel between the stars, and they watched as life grew and spread throughout the galaxy. The light pictures showed tall, graceful beings with 4 arms and eyes that glowed like stars. They built magnificent cities on hundreds of worlds and created technology that seemed like magic. The Builders were wise and peaceful. They helped younger species develop and grow. Under their guidance, the galaxy became a place of cooperation and learning." Taeho watched as the images showed different alien species working together, sharing knowledge and resources. It was a beautiful vision of what the galaxy could be. "But the Builders discovered something terrible," Elder Sul continued. "In the dark space between galaxies, there were entities that fed on life itself. These void devourers had already consumed entire galaxies, leaving nothing but empty darkness behind. The images changed to show horrible creatures made of living shadow and hunger. They moved through space like cosmic viruses, devouring everything in their path. When they touched a planet, all life withered and died. The Builders knew the void devourers would eventually come to our galaxy," Elder Sul said. "So they created us." "Created you?" Sora asked in amazement. Elder Sul nodded. "We are not a natural species. The Builders made us to be the galaxy's protectors. They gave us long life, great wisdom, and the ability to work with cosmic forces. We were designed to guard life and maintain balance." The images showed the first dragons being born from crystal eggs, emerging as perfect guardians. They were magnificent and powerful, able to fly through space without ships and communicate across vast distances through thought. "When the Builders died out, we continued their work," Elder Sul explained. "For millions of years we have watched over the galaxy. We prevented wars that would have destroyed entire species. We guided the development of new civilizations. We prepared for the day when the Void Devourers would arrive." "And that day is coming soon?" Jiwan asked. Elder Hanul entered the chamber, his silver-blue scales glowing in the crystal light. Our long-range sensors have detected them at the galaxy's edge. They will be here within 10 years. Captain Minho looked shocked. 10 years? That's not very long to prepare for something like this. We have been preparing for thousands of years, Elder Hanol said, but we face a problem we did not expect. What problem? Tejo asked. Elder Sol activated another set of light images. These showed dragons trying to work with different alien species throughout history. Every species we have encountered reacts to us in the same way. They either worship us as gods or fear us as monsters. The images showed aliens bowing before dragons, building temples to them and offering sacrifices. Other images showed species attacking dragons with weapons, trying to capture or kill them. Those who worship us become weak and dependent, Elder Hanil explained. They stop thinking for themselves and expect us to solve all their problems. Those who fear us become hostile and try to destroy us. Neither reaction helps us fight the Void Devourers, Elder Sol added. We need allies who can work with us as equals, partners who can think independently and adapt quickly to new situations. Tejo was beginning to understand. And you think humans might be those partners? Elder Yunha entered the chamber, moving slowly due to her great age. Your species is unique, Tejo Kim. When you saw a dragon, you did not worship it or fear it. You simply helped it because it needed help. Biol chirped and nuzzled against Tejo's cheek. Through their bond, he felt her confidence in him and her people. But I'm just one person, Tejo said. How do you know other humans will react the same way? Elder Yuna smiled. We have been watching your species for some time. You are curious, adaptable, and surprisingly compassionate. You have the ability to unite different groups and find common ground. The light images changed to show scenes from Earth's history. Humans from different cultures working together, helping each other during disasters, and cooperating to solve problems. Most importantly, Elder Hanul added, you do not give up easily. When faced with impossible odds, humans often find creative solutions that no one else would think of. What exactly are you asking of us? Captain Minho asked. Elder Yunha looked at each of the humans carefully. We want to offer humanity a choice. You can return to Earth and continue your isolated existence, safe but unaware of the greater universe. Or you can help us unite the galaxy's species to face the coming threat. If we choose to help, what would that mean? Tejo asked. It would mean becoming the first species to truly partner with dragons, Elder Sol said. You would help us contact other alien civilizations and convince them to work together. You would share in our knowledge and technology, and you would fight beside us when the Void Devourers arrive. Sora looked worried. What if we fail? What if the Void Devourers win? Then all life in the galaxy dies, Elder Yuna said simply. But if we do nothing, the result is the same. At least working together gives us a chance. Tejo looked at his friends and crewmates. They were scared, but he could see determination in their eyes. They understood the importance of what they were being asked to do. There's something else, Elder Hanul said. Young Biol has chosen to bond with you permanently, Tejo. This has never happened before between a dragon and another species. What does that mean? Tejo asked. Biol flew from his shoulder to hover in front of his face. As he looked into her bright eyes, he felt their connection deepen. Suddenly, he could sense her thoughts clearly, and she could sense his. It means you are no longer just allies, Elder Sol said with wonder. You are partners in the truest sense. Where one goes, the other follows. What one learns, the other knows. It means, Elder Una added, that the bond between dragons and humans is stronger than we ever imagined possible. Tejo felt Biol's love and trust flowing through their connection. She showed him images of flying together among the stars, working side by side to protect all the life in the galaxy. Will you accept this partnership? Elder Hanul asked. Will you help us save the galaxy? Tejo looked at his friends one more time. They all nodded. Yes, Tejo said. We'll help you. Biol did a happy loop in the air, and through their bond, Tejo felt the joy of every dragon in the chamber. For the first time in thousands of years, they had real hope for the future. The galaxy's salvation would begin with the friendship between a human scientist and a baby dragon. The return journey to Earth took 3 weeks, but it felt like a lifetime to Tejo. Biol had grown during their time on the dragon world, now about the size of a small dog with wings that sparkled like starlight. More importantly, their mental bond had strengthened. They could share thoughts and feelings as easily as speaking. Elder Hanul and 2 other dragons, Elder Mirai and Elder Jihun, had come with them in a smaller dragon ship that looked like a living work of art. Its hull was pearl white with flowing patterns of blue and gold that moved like water. Are you nervous about meeting my people? Tejo asked Biol as Earth appeared in the viewing window. Through their bond, he felt her excitement mixed with worry. She was eager to meet more humans, but she remembered the dragon stories about how other species reacted to them. Earth is beautiful, Elder Hanul said as he looked at the blue and green planet. I can see why your species loves it so much. The dragon ship landed at the International Space Research Facility, where officials from every major nation had gathered. President Na-Young Shin of the Korean Republic stood with UN Secretary-General Dong-Yuk Han, both looking amazed and slightly frightened as they watched the living ship touch down. Remember, Elder Hanul said to the humans, your leader's first reaction will determine how successful this alliance can be. Tejo nodded and picked up Biol, who immediately perched on his shoulder. Together, they walked down the ship's ramp to meet the gathered Earth leaders. The silence was complete as hundreds of people stared at the dragons. Then President Shin stepped forward. Welcome to Earth, she said in a steady voice. I am President Shin. We are honored by your visit. Elder Hanul bowed his great head respectfully. Thank you, President Shin. I am Elder Hanul of the Dragon Council. We come seeking partnership with humanity. UN Secretary-General Han approached slowly, his eyes wide with wonder. Dragons are real. After all the myths and legends, you actually exist. We have existed for millions of years, Elder Mirai said, her scales shimmering purple and silver. But we have remained hidden until now. Why reveal yourselves now? Asked General Kwangmin Park, the head of Earth's defense forces. Elder Jihun, whose scales were deep green with gold edges, answered, because a threat is coming that will destroy all life in the galaxy unless we work together to stop it. The next several hours were spent in the main conference room, where the dragons explained about the Void Devourers and the need for a galactic alliance. Human scientists, led by Dr. Kyung Kim and Dr. Hajin Yu, asked hundreds of questions about dragon technology and cosmic threats. Tejo was amazed by how quickly the human leaders accepted the situation. Instead of panic or disbelief, they immediately began planning and organizing. How long do we have to prepare? Asked Admiral Deho Jang. Approximately 8 years, Elder Hanul replied. The Void Devourers move slowly between galaxies, but once they arrive, they spread quickly. What can humanity contribute to this alliance? President Shin asked. Elder Mirai looked surprised by the question. You do not ask what we can give you. You ask what you can give us. That's how partnerships work, Secretary-General Han said simply. Each side contributes their strengths. The dragons looked at each other in amazement. This was exactly the reaction they had hoped for but never expected to find. Your species has unique qualities, Elder Jihun explained. You adapt quickly to new situations. You find creative solutions to impossible problems, and most importantly, you have the ability to bring different groups together. Dr. Kyung Kim leaned forward excitedly. Are there other alien species in the galaxy? Hundreds, Elder Hanul said. "But none have been willing to work with us as equals. They either fear us or worship us." "But they might work with us," realized Ambassador Minji Bay, Earth's chief diplomat. "Humans could serve as intermediaries." "Exactly," Elder Mire said with growing excitement. "You could help us contact other species and convince them to join the alliance." Over the following months, Earth transformed rapidly. Human scientists worked with dragon knowledge to develop new technologies. Spaceborne solar collectors provided unlimited clean energy. Medical advances eliminated most diseases. Transportation systems used dragon-inspired technology to move people instantly across the planet. But the most important work was diplomatic. Ambassador Minji Bay led teams to contact alien civilizations throughout the galaxy. Teho often went with these missions, with Biol translating and helping to establish trust. Their first contact was with the Crystalline Confederation, a group of silicon-based life forms who lived in asteroid belts. The crystals had always been terrified of dragons, believing them to be destroyers of worlds. "The dragons are not destroyers," Teho explained to the crystal beings through a translator device. "They are protectors. I have seen their memories. For millions of years, they have prevented wars and guided peaceful development." Biol projected images of dragon history directly into the crystal's consciousness, showing them the truth about dragon nature. Slowly, the crystal beings began to understand. The next contact was with the plasma dancers, energy beings who lived in the coronas of stars. They had worshipped dragons as gods, building their entire civilization around dragon worship. "We do not want to be worshipped," Elder Hanel explained during the meeting. "We want to be partners. You have abilities we need, and we have knowledge you can use." It took time, but eventually, the plasma dancers agreed to work with the Alliance as equals rather than servants. Contact after contact followed. The hive minds of the Outer Rim, the shapeshifters of the nebula worlds, the machine intelligence of the core systems. Each species brought unique abilities to the growing alliance. Teho found himself promoted to Admiral in the new Galactic Defense Force, working alongside Admiral Deho Jang to coordinate military preparations. The bond with Biol, who had grown to the size of a horse with magnificent silver wings, allowed him to understand dragon tactics and integrate them with human strategy. "The alliance is growing stronger every day," Biol said to him one evening as they stood on the observation deck of the new space station orbiting Earth. She could speak aloud now, her voice musical and warm. "It's because of you," Teho said, scratching behind her horned ears. "If I hadn't found you, none of this would have happened. If you hadn't been the kind of person who would help a hurt creature, I never would have trusted you," Biol replied. "This alliance exists because humans have good hearts." Through the viewing window, they could see ships from dozens of species working together to build the galaxy's defenses. Human crews worked alongside crystal beings, dragon engineers collaborated with plasma entities and machine intelligences, calculated optimal defense strategies. "The Void Devourers won't expect this," Admiral Deho Jang said, as he joined them at the window. "They've probably never faced an alliance like this before. That's what we're counting on," Teho agreed. In the distance, a new ship was arriving, a joint construction between humans and dragons. It was beautiful and powerful, representing the best of both species working together. The first joint patrol mission launched a week later. When they encountered a small scout probe from the Void Devourers at the galaxy's edge, the combined human-dragon crew destroyed it easily. The alliance worked perfectly. "We're ready," Biol said as they watched the successful mission reports. "As ready as we can be," Teho agreed. But he knew that saving one small dragon had led to something far greater than he ever imagined. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, and the galaxy had found new hope. 2 years had passed since first contact, and the galaxy was transformed. Admiral Teho Kim stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity, watching as the combined fleet moved toward the galaxy's edge where the Void Devourers waited. The ship was a marvel of cooperation, human engineering combined with dragon life technology, powered by crystal energy sources and guided by machine intelligence calculations. Baeol perched beside him, now fully grown and magnificent. Her scales had turned deep silver with patterns of blue and gold that matched the ship's hull. Their mental bond was so strong that they often shared thoughts without realizing it. "All ships report ready," announced Captain Sora Choi from her position at the communications station. She now commanded a squadron of hybrid human-dragon vessels. "Crystal formations are in position," added Navigator Jaiwan Lee, who had become the fleet's expert on navigating through different dimensional spaces. Through the main viewing screen, Taeho could see the edge of the galaxy where dark space began. And there, moving slowly but steadily toward them, was the Void Devourer fleet. The enemy ships were horrible to look at, black holes in space that seemed to absorb light itself. They moved like living shadows, leaving trails of dead space behind them. Just looking at them made Taeho feel cold and empty. "How many?" asked War Leader Hanul, who now served as the Dragon military commander. "Our sensors count over 1,000 major vessels," reported Dr. Kyung Kim from the science station. "But they're unlike anything we've seen before. They seem to exist partially, outside normal space." Elder Yunha's voice came through the communication system from her position with the Dragon Reserve Forces. "The Void Devourers are older than our galaxy. They have consumed countless civilizations before us. But they've never faced an alliance like ours," Taeho said firmly. Through his bond with Baeol, he could feel the determination of every dragon in the fleet. Through the communication network, he sensed the courage of human crews and the resolve of alien allies. The first contact came when a small group of Void Devourer scouts approached the fleet. These scouts were smaller than the main vessels, but still enormous, each one the size of a small moon. "They're trying to read our minds," warned Elder Mirai from her ship. "They feed on fear and despair. Do not let them into your thoughts." But as the scouts tried to project fear into the Alliance fleet, something unexpected happened. The combined mental strength of dragons, humans, and psychic alien species created a barrier that the Void Devourers couldn't penetrate. "They can't break through our shared consciousness," Baeol said in amazement. "The Alliance is protecting itself." The battle began when the main Void Devourer fleet arrived. Their weapons were streams of pure darkness that dissolved anything they touched. But the Alliance had prepared for this. Crystal ships created barriers of hardened light that deflected the dark energy. Dragon vessels used their life force to heal ships that were damaged. Human crews used their adaptability to find new tactics when old ones failed. "Squadron 7, use pattern Delta 9, Taeho ordered, watching as human and alien ships worked together in perfect coordination. The machine intelligences calculated attack vectors while plasma beings provided power boosts to weapon systems. Shapeshifters infiltrated enemy vessels and disrupted them from within. But the turning point came when Taeho realized something important about the Void Devourers. "They're feeding on isolation," he announced to the fleet. "Every species they've conquered before fought alone. But we're not alone." "What do you mean?" asked Admiral Daeho Jong from his command ship. Baeol understood immediately. "They consume life by cutting it off from connection, but our alliance creates connection stronger than they've ever encountered. All ships, link your communication systems," Taeho ordered. "Share everything, thoughts, feelings, hopes, memories. Show them what unity looks like." Across the fleet, thousands of different species opened their minds to each other. Humans shared their curiosity and determination. Dragons shared their wisdom and strength. Crystal beings shared their patience and clarity. Every species contributed, something unique to the growing mental network. The effect on the Void Devourers was immediate. Their ships began to falter as they encountered something they couldn't consume. genuine connection between different forms of life. "They're confused," Elder Hanul reported. "They don't understand how to fight something that gets stronger when attacked." The final battle lasted for days. But slowly, inevitably, the Alliance pushed the Void Devourers back. The enemy's darkness couldn't consume the light that came from cooperation and mutual trust. When the last Void Devourer ship retreated into the dark space between galaxies, a cheer went up across the entire fleet. Species that had never spoken before were celebrating together. "We did it," Biol said, nuzzling against Taiho's cheek. "We actually did it." "No," Taiho said, looking around at the bridge where humans, dragons, and aliens worked side by side. "We all did it together." The aftermath of the victory was as amazing as the battle itself. Instead of returning to their separate worlds, the Alliance species decided to stay together. They established the first true galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. Taiho found himself elected as the first chancellor of the Interspecies Council. He established his office on a new space station built jointly by all member species. The station was a work of art. Crystal spires grown by silicon beings, living gardens tended by plant-based life forms, energy fields maintained by plasma entities, and comfortable spaces designed by humans for species that needed solid matter. "Chancellor Kim," said Ambassador Minji Bay as she entered his office, "the Crystal Confederation wants to establish a new trade agreement with the machine intelligence worlds." "Approved," Taiho said, signing the document with one hand while scratching Biol's chin with the other. "Anything that strengthens cooperation between species is good for everyone." Engineer Sora Choi had been promoted to head of galactic engineering, working with alien scientists to develop new worlds for displaced species. Navigator Jiwon Lee now mapped safe travel routes between star systems, making it easy for different species to visit each other. Dr. Kyung Kim led research teams that studied cosmic phenomena, always looking for new threats, but also for new opportunities, to help life flourish throughout the galaxy. "The galaxy is more peaceful now than it has been in millions of years," Elder Yuna told Taiho during one of their regular meetings. "The Alliance has created something we never thought possible." "What's that?" Taiho asked. "A civilization based on kindness rather than power." One day, Taiho and Biol visited a new world that had been established for species whose home planets had been damaged by past wars. As they walked through the settlement, they saw human children playing with young dragons, crystal beings teaching, alien youngsters about mathematics, and plasma entities dancing with machine intelligences. "Look at them," Biol said happily. "They don't see differences. They just see friends." A small human girl ran up to them, followed by a tiny dragon that sparkled with rainbow colors. "Chancellor Kim," the girl said excitedly. "Look what Sparky can do." The little dragon performed a perfect loop in the air, then landed on the girl's outstretched arm. "That's wonderful," Taiho said, smiling at the sight. "Are you taking good care of each other?" "Of course," the girl said. "That's what friends do." As they walked away, Biol looked thoughtful. "Do you ever think about how different things would be if you hadn't stopped to help one small dragon?" Taiho considered this. "I think about it every day. But I also think that kindness finds a way. If it hadn't been you, it would have been something else. Good people doing good things. That's how the universe works." "And now the whole galaxy knows it," Biol said. They stood together on a hill overlooking the peaceful settlement, watching. Dozens of different species living and working together in harmony. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that reminded Taiho of Biol's scales. "What do you think happens next?" Biol asked. Taiho smiled. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together, all of us." In the distance, a new ship was arriving. Probably another species that had heard about the Alliance and wanted to join. The galaxy was still full of wonders to discover and friends to make. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun, and it all started with one human who couldn't walk away from a creature in need.